All right, hey, welcome everybody to another edition of Joe Talks. This is Sergeant First Class Nathan Hutchison here from OCTA LA, the Army Entertainment Office. I am here today with recently retired Sergeant First Class Jesse Naputi. He is coming to us from right around the Fort Irwin, California area. Like I said, just retired. He was a Black Hawk crew chief. Now venturing out into the civilian world for the first time in 22 years. But he is going to spend a little bit of time talking about his 22-year career and how that started and how that culminated and just the interesting things in between there. So with that said, Mr. Naputi, please take it away.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? Yeah, I'm Jesse Naputi. I'm civilian now, freshly retired, couple of months at most. I'm living the American dream, and it's because of the military. And my brother Joe Naputi, who is a retired Air Force. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be at the position I am now. I just sold one of my houses. I was able to buy 2-3 houses because of the military. My wife, my kids, they're great kids. I'm, like I said, living the American dream, and it's all because of the military and how I grew up. As a young boy, probably about 8 or 9 is when I realized that I wanted to either be a military or a police officer. Yeah, and I say that because a police officer, I'd see that person with his uniform and arresting a guy, a bad person, because another person was fighting with a military person. And then I saw that military person and how he was standing up to a person who was doing something bad, and he too was in uniform. And I was like, wow, I want to be either a police officer or a soldier. And plus, my grandmother at the time told me nothing but good things about the military and what it did for our island. I've never heard her say anything negative or anything about the military. Is always something positive, and I always remember that. And what the military and this great nation has done for my island, Guam, and that's where I'm from. Of course, growing up, things happen, families separate, and I was one of those unfortunate sons who grew up with a single mom who's trying to raise 6 kids, and she did a great job, I think. Other people might think otherwise, but frankly, I don't care. My mom, she raised us, and look where I'm at because of her, and I love her. She just recently passed away. God rest her soul, and I thank her a lot for a lot that I have, and what she instilled in my older siblings who taught me how to be a man when my dad when they were separated. Okay, so, like I said, my brother, my sisters, they played an important role in my life growing up. And it was hard, but my mom never stopped working. She always worked hard for her money and always did what she thought was best for us. And I thank her for that. And as I grew up, I realized, I came back. I go back and forth to Guam, but the last time I came from Guam, I was 15. I was going to high school. It was my first year as a 9th grader. I was coming in, and I seen some really, really messed up stuff. And it was my introduction to gangs at that time. At that point, because I saw guys with axes in their back and other people chasing after them with axes, and then cops chasing after them. I didn't want to be that person. I realized at that point that, hey, I need to watch what I do so that I'm not that person, or I'm not getting arrested, because my goal, and I didn't forget, was to be a soldier or a cop. Okay. And if I did any of those things, I'm sure it would be a disqualifier. I didn't know that at the time. All I know is they were positive people, and I need to be a positive person to be that. Okay. And the other thing, being raised by my grandmother, my sisters, and sometimes a mom, and my dad, I would realize that, hey, I gotta make sure that whatever I do, I gotta think about how much of a hypocrite I would be to my future family or for my future kids. If I was to get arrested, if I tell them, hey, don't get arrested, that's not right. And there I was at that same age, and I got arrested. So whatever I did on the streets, I had to make sure before I did it, what the repercussions was, and whether I was gonna be a hypocrite to my future family, my future kids. And to this day, I'm not. I'm not a hypocrite. When I tell my boy, don't get arrested, it's because I didn't get arrested. Don't, uh, do drugs, or get caught, or whatever it is. It's because I didn't do it. Because if I did it, I wouldn't be telling them. I practice what I preach. And that's just, I didn't even know it. It was like one of the traits in the military. Hey, practice what you preach, lead from the front. So I've already established a lot of that I've noticed that came from the military and our public servants, the police and the firefighters. I see them, and I mimic them, and it's important. So if you're a public figure, make sure that you're doing the right thing, because kids at 8 years old, they're looking at you, and that's what they're going to mimic. Okay, so if you're doing that, make sure that you're doing it and that you're doing something positive, because the kids are going to remember that for the rest of their lives. Anyways, growing up, I made sure I didn't do those things. When it came down to enlisting, and I enlisted during the first Gulf War. It was, the ground war just started, and I went in there to a recruiting center, and I said, hey, I don't want to walk, because I was out of shape, and I don't want to walk. So get me in as fast as I can to go and serve my country and give back to this great nation, like those who sacrificed or gave the ultimate sacrifice in World War II, World War I, and those who came before us. And I, in particular, World War II, because my grandmother talked about that time period during a lot. And she said, nothing but good things about what took place, and the hardships that they had to endure. So, because of that, I want to give back. When I joined the Army, I'm like, you know what? I want to join the Army, serve this great nation the way those who gave the ultimate sacrifice during World War II for my island, and make sure that this great democracy, this great nation continues forward, because that's what that ultimate sacrifice taught me, that I too have to give back to this country, this liberty, this freedom, everything that I have is from those who passed and those who sacrificed, present, past, and the ultimate sacrifice. I have what I have because of them. And I found it personally my obligation to serve during the Gulf War, and I did. Unfortunately, I missed the war by 15 days. So, I had to serve out my time. I served out my time. But guess what? 9/11 came around, 2001. I said, you know what? I'm going to go back in. I'm going back in. I'm going to go finish what we should have finished in the first Gulf War. You know, I don't know if that's political. I really don't care. I just want to go back because my son was young at that time. I don't want him to grow up and be obligated, you know, because he might be like me. If he's stubborn, he's going to be like me and want to join the military and serve his country the way I did. I don't tell him to serve. I keep telling him, hey, I did it, so you don't have to do it. Okay, but he doesn't say nothing. So I joined. I re-enlisted and I came back in to serve our country a second time, just so that my son don't have to, my future kids don't have to, or future, or even Sergeant First Class Hutchinson's kids don't have to. You know, this is me. This is all I know. This is all I want. There's a reason why I want to do it. And I reenlisted, and then I decided I'm gonna retire from this day on. And I did. When I reenlisted, I was backed by a beautiful wife who even sacrificed. I remember a period where we were separated 4 years because of 2 deployments and then a deployment down to Central South America. 4 years, straight years, and then I come back and she still is there. She's still, my kids are who they are because of her. But not to get off track. We'll visit that story in a few minutes. I reenlisted. I came back in, and me growing up in the streets, it really changed me from the little island boy that I was when I was younger to growing up from ninth grade on the streets and having to deal with all these different people and colorful. I don't. They were just really colorful, and I had to adapt to my environment. Okay, I had to be things that I didn't want to be. I had to be mean. I had to be. I Yeah. If somebody says hi to you, you gotta like get in their face. Why are you saying hi to me? Because if you don't and you say hi back, that's like a sign of that's a sign of weakness, and they'll take advantage of you from there on. Okay, and then you know being taken advantage of on the streets in California was a matter of life or death. Okay, so that's just the reality of everybody's life. But there's one goal uh, um, I never steered away from, and I always kept making sure I'm not a hypocrite to my future family. Okay, and making sure that oh shoot, a hypocrite, and making sure I didn't do nothing that would jeopardize me joining the military or even the being a cop or a firefighter. Okay, these were my goals, and it was hard during that time. And anyways, back to 2001, I joined. I came back in. I went to basic training twice. I started as an E1 both times, and I coming back in 2001, I said, I want to retire as an E6. If I retire after that, uh, anything above that, I was blessed. I was blessed to retire as a sergeant first class. Okay. And like I said, the military played a very beautiful role in where my family is now. My son don't have to worry about all the negative things from the streets. He's been to good schools um, from Fort Campbell to Fort Bragg. He's been to these DOD schools that done nothing but wonderful work for my kids, and I want to thank them. Like I said, the military, DOD, they've done nothing but great things for my family. My wife, she, we made sure we lived to where she didn't have to work, and the military did that for us. We kept our finances at a certain state, and she didn't have to work. She raised my kids. She was with my daughter. My son used to go to daycare. My son was 9 or 10 years old before we came back into, or before I came back into the military. And so he had to go to daycare. He had to go to school at 6 in the morning because my wife had to go to work. I had to go to work and sit there for an hour at the office for an hour just to go to school. And he would sit there, and every time we left him, he would cry. Okay, so these things played, a significant, at being a civilian, it played a significant negative. It was just hard for me to see my son go through that as a civilian. But when I joined the military and all the programs that they had from, the daycare and all that, it was just lovely. And then the fact that my wife didn't have to work because of the military. Yeah, I mean, you can see where this came from. And it was, going through the military. My life through the military was hard. It was, like any other job. It's what you make of it. So, and that's basically what I did. I had to live and learn how to adapt to the military because my street my street knowledge was not part of the military. So I had to change. And guess what? I went from an E0 to a E7, despite having a a street attitude. That's how forgiving the military is for you. They give you room to adapt, to change. They don't look at you any different. They want to see performance and a positive person, and that's what happened. That's my success. And and growing and going through the military, I've always wondered, this repetitive training and all that. I'm like, wow, why repetitive training? And then shoots in 2000. I won't say the year, but I went to what we call Fob Shank, Rocket City. A lot of people know about that, and it was there that I realized, and that was like 10 years, 10, 12 years after joining. I realized why the repetitive training is because we had a rocket attack. I ran. I ducked like I was supposed to, but you can hear that whistle, that incoming indirect fire coming in. The whistle's coming. It's getting louder and closer and louder, and then all you're praying is, hopefully it doesn't land where you're at. Well, it did, and it landed probably about 10 meters away from my location. Luckily, I was down, covered, and an explosion popped, boom. A gym got hit. There's a soldier in there. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. All I saw was fire, and then the door blown out of that one gym, black smoke, literally what you see um, in the movies where it's just a black smoke door. And then the smoke doesn't come out. It just stays there, just swirling around. I'm like, whoa. And then right when I saw that, I started running towards there to run in there to make sure there was no soldiers in there, not caring about my own life. And then I looked to the left and I saw a bunker. And then I ran into the bunker and I ran in there and said, hey, there's the gym just got hit. I need somebody to be a, buddy assist. One person came out of probably 60 to 80 soldiers that were in that bunker. It was crammed tight, probably more crammed tight with soldiers. One soldier appeared. He was an engineer, Specialist Smith. I remember him, redheaded, young guy, probably in his mid 25s. And I said, I will. And we both ran towards that smoke-filled door. I pierced that door. And right before it pierced, I see Smith stop. And then when I got in, the door was smoke. It was filled with smoke. And then I dropped to my knees. I dropped to my stomach like I was trained to do. And sure enough, that four inches of air, or where you can see and there's no smoke, it exists. Okay, so that's where I came down. I was looking around. I had to hold my breath because it was a rocket and that thing was just choking me real bad. So, being an islander and experienced swimmer, and I held my breath. I can hold my breath for at least 2 minutes. I looked around, I saw a light, and I started walking towards that light, just feeling around because you can't see nothing. Okay, and feeling around, and then finally I felt, I tapped a guy's shoe, and then anyways, I jumped up because I was running out of air, and I did a reverse azimuth and went straight to the door, and I took a deep breath, and right when I found that body, I knew that I had to yell for help, yell for medics, medic, medic, medic. That's the first thing you do. Okay. And then I told him, hey man, go get a medic. And Smith, because he knew I was in there, and I'm glad he knew I was in there, because if I was to die in there, at least he knew I was in there. And that was that. And I didn't mind that he was there. I turned around, held my breath, went back in, did a totally, the same exact direction, but opposite. And I went back to that soldier. By the time I got to him, it kind of cleared up, but it was still smoky. I started feeling for any blood or anything, because I still couldn't see. And then finally I can see. And then I looked and I saw that he was like cut towards his inner thighs. And I started to remove, he had a shorts on, started to make sure that there's nothing going on. I had to stop again, run back out, and tell Smith, call for a medic and go get me some kind of vehicle. Okay, so I turned around. I didn't know he was going to come back with the gator, but he did. He came back with the gator. So I went back, went in there, and it started clearing up. And then that's when a infantry guy, he was a alert. No. Anyways, he was one of those special infantry guys, and he came in and he was a medic, and he asked me what was going on, and because he was there, I don't know what happened. I just stared at the soldier, because he had a big hole in his forehead. I thought he was done. He was gone, and it took me a couple of seconds to gather myself and respond to him and let him know that, hey, we got a lot of the front of his body was just totally covered in lacerations and everything, but the back of his body didn't have any, and that's what I was trying to tell him. And then his arms mangled. I said, his arm is mangled, but I thought coming down here he might have had blood coming out, or he was bleeding out from his vital organ, shoots blood vessel in his inner thigh, and that's where I was trying to set a tourniquet. So what that soldier did was, that infantryman put a tourniquet around his arm, and then I came back out and I had to breathe again. Now I can start breathing, but I went back in there, asked people, hey, clear the way, so that there's a path. Again, my training, making sure that the soldier was not bleeding. Again, my training, making sure that the soldier was breathing. Again, my training. And I didn't think about it. It just went right automatic because of the constant training that we do. Now I know, now I know why. All I knew is that I had to do this training, and I did it because I was told to, and I knew it was going to come into use at one time. And sure enough, I pulled out that toolbox and I knew what to do. Even these, and I was an older soldier at the time. These young guys were coming in and they were taking your time. I go, hey, come on, let's go. We got to get this guy out of here. Hurry up. Hey, man, go put that on there. It's time to move him. We got to move him. He's good. He's not, there's nothing wrong with him. We got to move him, get him to the hospital. So I had to take charge, because the medic guys were like really going through all the steps that I already took. So I had to take charge and tell them, hey, no, come on, let's do this. And then we put him on we put them on a um, shoots. Uh, I even forgot the terms. That's how. Anyways, we put them on a stretcher, and then everybody was trying to lift it different. Oh no, 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 no. Ready, set, prepare. We're gonna lift in two. Prepare to lift. One, two, lift. And we came into synchronization. We made sure that we were doing what we were taught. Okay, and somebody had to take charge because they were trying to figure it out too. A lot of these medics were it was their first time, and somebody had to take charge. So I had to get myself back into the action and take and do what I was trained to do, and that's what I did. I took him. We got up all at the same time. There's a path all the way to the gator that was waiting for him because I told people to do that. Again, part of the training. We got to the gator, put the soldier in the gator. They were asking if I wanted to go, and I'm like, no, you professionals, you got this. Take over. Make sure he gets to the aid station. They took him to row 2. Right now, he's retired medically, Purple Heart, with his family, and going to school so that he can give his family a better life. And yeah, it was because of her. It's not because of me. It's because of the training that I was taught. And that's it. That's the Army. That's the military. Not only am I living the American dream, I was able to do my purpose, and that was to help that soldier at that time. It took 20 years, 15 years, but that was my purpose. Okay. I mean, I think, I did a lot of things. Colonel Francis, General Francis right now, is I went to 10th Mountain, my first time at 10th Mountain, and he asked me, hey, 10th Mountain haven't never had in the past 10 years, haven't had a PMI, a phase maintenance inspection. Okay, that's a major maintenance. That's like a 460-hour maintenance. That's like ripping the helicopter apart, not to change. Like I said, I'm a helicopter mechanic. Rip it apart and put it back together. I'm like, not a problem. And we were doing phase maintenance in below Army standards. That's because of the type and quality of soldiers that come into the Army. I'm but one. There's even better soldiers like Sergeant First Class Hutchinson and other soldiers that came who are better soldiers than I am, and that's the beauty of it. I don't know what to say.
Well,
But
you
oh,
you're giving you're giving yourself far too little credit. But to change gears a little bit, so you rejoined after 9/11. Um, did you join as a well, that would be a helicopter repairman, right? Or a repair,
right.
yeah. Is that what your original MOS was when you joined the
No,
Gulf?
I was a combat arms. I was a tanker.
Okay.
I came in. I served with the 197th Brigade, and then it became a third Brigade 24th Infantry, and now it's 3ID. That was my original unit, and then I was stationed in Korea during that time and served Korea and Team Spirit. Um, and oh, and coming to talking about Team Spirit and serving Korea, um, shoots soldiers like me remember previous soldiers when I was young. I remember soldiers, um, at that time and why they joined, and all I can think about was nothing but good things about the soldiers that I encountered growing up in the islands. Okay. So me as a soldier, when you're superior or your supervisors and people hiring and you say that you're an ambassador to the military and to this great nation. It's a true fact because I remember as a young uh, lad that soldiers were really really nice to me, and that's what made me want to join. And that's and and all the things that they did, from curing, like I said, all this, the education, the infrastructure, the curing of all the diseases that we had, being nice to me, and showing nothing but positive things. That's what influenced me to join. So when I went to war and I had like um, a few combat tours and multiple overseas tours, wherever I went, I made sure that I represented the US and the US Army positively, because that's what everybody talk about. Okay, I've met a lot of Afghan people, Romanian people, Korean people, and how they talk from their experience positive about the military. And I wanted to be the same way. We are great because of that, and people know that. Yes, yes, there's like hiccups here and there, but I've never experienced it. And Guam is a Guam at the time was nothing but military. One of my best friends, Rex Robb, he comes from a military family, and they were nothing but nice to me, And as a young person, this is what you remember. And so when we go and how we act towards the international community, that reflects, and that's gonna to me, my opinion, that's gonna affect how they look to us. I mean, at us when they get older.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So um, let's talk about your career overall. So once you got to 2001 and you decided to come back in, uh, what was your decision on choosing an MOS at that time?
Well, I came back in 2003, but I had to convince from 2001 to 2003. I had to convince my wife to let me join. That was the factor, the deciding factor of me enlisting. 9 months of being unemployed, okay, during that time, and seeing my wife support me and my family. It really took a toll on me, and I had to convince her in every way possible, that hey, I got to do this. And so she allowed me to join in 2003. And then when I came in, um, when I was okay, just to back up, in Korea, I'll uh, I'll lie in my foxhole or on the tank, or whatever duty I am, and guess how I see up ahead flying helicopters. And then when I talk to them, they're like all nice and warm, and I'm like, wow, I want to do that. And and then 2003 rolled around, I reenlisted, and I said, you know what? I want to be a helicopter mechanic, uh, because I knew that it was a good career field, and I'm very good with my hands. I'm mechanically inclined. I scored well in the ASVAB, and I found out that I'm actually really good with my hands. So I went that route, and I said, okay, I want to be a helicopter mechanic. They showed me the Chinook. I'm like, oh no, you see how short I am? You see how big that was? Climbing up and down. I was 37 years old at the time when I came back in, and I'm like, no, I'm too old to be going up and down. But then they showed me the Kiowa, and I'm, nah, that's too small. They're gonna laugh at me and call me. Anyways, I won't get into MOS bashing. And then I saw the Black Hawk, and my platoon sergeant at the time, or he was a E7 at the time. He goes, yeah, he was an old 160th guy, and he told me about the Black Hawk. It was perfect. I'm like, yeah, I like it. So I enlisted as a Black Hawk mechanic, and the rest is history. I can tear that bad boy apart and put it right back together and watch it fly. I've never had any incidents, no accidents, nothing. Everything I've done, I have over 80 phases. A lot of people are going to say, "Oh, that's impossible." Well, we were turning phases between PMI ones and PMI twos, which are like 450, 460 hour each. Okay. And it, by Army standards, it's like it should take you no more than like 30 days. We're doing it in record time without skipping any inspections. It's just about knowing the aircraft. We're doing it in 7 days, 14 days. Okay. And it's knowing your aircraft. If you know what to do in the aircraft and what takes the longest, of course you're going to knock that out. You have one to, 1 to 10, for example, 1 to 10. Okay. As long as you do every one of those numbers, you are good. And it's just like, instead of, like, for example, depaneling or taking off certain panels, every step when you get to it, you depanel it on the first day, wash the aircraft, and then you'll see more cracks. If you don't, and you depanel and the aircraft is dirty, it's just an example, you're not going to see fine cracks that will down the aircraft in the future. So these are, things that as a mechanic or as a supervisor you have to think about, and other stuff. So I learned the aircraft back, like nothing. And I was teaching guys how to do it and how to knock it out, and they took it over because a lot of them had real leadership qualities that would um, you know um, have guys 12 hours of work. We're in Afghanistan. We do pure 12 hours of work and then go relax and then do it all over. And we do it for a year. We do it for, and we're knocking out phases, 2 phases a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Can you explain what the difference is between a repair or repairman and what it takes to become a crew chief?
yeah, okay, a crew chief. There's like you're gonna hear in the aviation world between a crew chief and a maintenance person. Oh, I'm a maintenance person, or I'm a maintenance guy. Or you're gonna hear a crew chief. Oh, I'm a crew chief guy. Even though they're the same MOS, they're separate. And the reason why I say that is because crew chiefs, they maintain the bird, okay, but they also crew the bird. They prep the bird, they crew it. They do a lot of really extraordinary things. They're the ones that go outside the fob or go outside the gate. They're the ones that know when not to shoot, when to shoot, when to hoist a person, when to lower that hoist, when to land in a tight confined space. you know they're the backseat eyes of the pilots, and without them the pilots can't land that aircraft in a tight situation. So yeah, that's your crew chief. They're doing amazing things. In the 160, they're the ones that send our customers out. Okay, and they're the ones that say yes, go or not go, because it's unsafe. Okay, so it takes a lot, and it also takes them to know the aircraft and be a maintainer. Okay, and yeah, they know how to be a maintainer to an extent, and they can read. And if they had to be a mechanic and conduct a PMI, I'm sure they can do it just as much as the maintainers that claim to be maintainers or mechanics. They're the ones who who fix the aircraft and know what to do and how fast it can get done. Okay, it's all about fixing the aircraft or crewing the aircraft, not because I mean, yes, it's because it's our job, but because it's a matter of life and death. Okay, if you don't have a competent crew chief in the back, it's going to be harder for the pilots to save that soldier on the battlefield. If you don't have a competent maintainer or mechanic, uh, okay, who knows what he's doing, it's a matter of life and death to get that aircraft in to a FMC or fully mission capable state so that it can fly and not miss any missions that's required of us. Because either way, the soldier that's waiting for that mail counts on that maintainer and that crew chief. Soldiers that are waiting to be medevaced out are waiting on that crew chief or that maintainer. And that's the beauty of our job. We me as a crew chief or as a mechanic, my main focus is to make sure that that aircraft flies. As a crew chief, make sure that aircraft is FMC fully mission capable, and then making sure that my pilots train back in the rear so they know how to fly that aircraft. So when we go to combat, they are capable of flying missions that are presented to us. And then as a mechanic, you know, I make sure that we fix that aircraft within a timely manner so that it gets back into the fight. And if a aircraft, and I remember aircraft in 2008, it got shot down. The tail boom was torn off. I mean, was shot off, and they were gonna, like just give up on his aircraft. I told the commander, "Why are we gonna do that? Let's rebuild this aircraft and put it back in a fight." And guess what happened? They did that. Okay, even though I was just an E5 at the time, I didn't care that I was giving, that I gave this advice to the commander, to the first sergeant, or to my supervisor, and they ran with it. Okay. And we did. We brought this aircraft back. We rebuilt that tail boom from scratch. We got in depot level or higher level maintenance from Corpus Christi, civilians to come out and jig the tail boom to make sure the drive shafts are straight, put it together, and it flew on the next mission.
So,
So we never, yeah.
so the way I, kind of feel about it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is that uh, as a crew member and a crew chief, you have a little bit more of an attachment to the specific vehicle than a maintainer does or a repairer does, because you're going through several different vehicles as a maintainer. You're kind of, you've got that one baby as a crew chief, right? And that's you have an attachment to it of a sort.
Yes.
I would think even more so than the pilots do in a certain way.
Yes.
The pilot has the confidence that well, they have a confidence in their team that whoever maintained that vehicle has done an acceptable job. As a crew chief, you have an attachment to that vehicle, and this is your baby, and you're taking care of it. So our attachment, me and you, is that along with our paths colliding in Germany and maybe some other countries in our deployment with 10th Mountain, is that one of my favorite photos that I've taken since I've been in the Army for 17 years is the photo that I took of you with your Black Hawk, and I can't remember if that was in Germany or if that was in one of the other countries.
It was in Romania.
In Romania, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's still to this day, out of 17 years, that's one of my favorite photos that I've taken. and I think it kind of captured the essence of a crew chief. Um, because that's your baby. That's your
Yeah, it is. It is, and every crew chief has the same sentiment that whatever aircraft they're in, it's their baby, and they know they have to get it up. So we're out there, medevacing, whether it be a medevac mission or a transport mission or a delivery, a combat, I mean, a delivery tactical mission. It's all about making sure that our aircraft is FMC, and that soldier who's waiting for mail or to get picked up because it's their end of their tour, or to get picked up because or get medevaced out. We don't want it to be a maintenance reason why we can't go get them. We need to get those soldiers back, and that's always on our mind. Get them back to their family at the end of the tour, get them back to a medical team that can save their lives, or just transport them to wherever they need to go. And that's our life. That was our life. People call us hobbits, but and we're not at the front lines or whatever, but in actuality we are, because we want to make sure that those who are on the front line receive every help possible, whether it be a cover fire, whether it be to get picked up. I don't know. I just keep repeating myself, but it's really dear to us that we don't fail the mission because of maintenance or lack of training issues. As crew chiefs, as supervisors, as platoon sergeants, and the sergeant major on down, commander on down, we make sure that we think about the customer, so that we can deliver or pick up whenever possible, life or death.
absolutely. So we've hit a few places, but over 22 years. So we got Korea in there. We've got Fort Bragg in there. You said Fort Campbell, Fort Drum, and of course there's some deployments in there. So you said Afghanistan, um, um,
uh, South America, Central America.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, is there any certain place that sticks out to you more? And of course, right now you just retired out of Fort Irwin, which, if anybody is unaware, Fort Irwin is where the National Training Center is, and aviation plays a big role in that piece as well, because you're training for deployments, right? It's basically a pre-deployment training, and so having all the assets there in a realistic environment is essential. Um, is there any place that sticks out to you any more than another as what what where you really felt like, oh, this is the quintessential Army, or that this is what really made me enjoy it more, or
Um. Uh, well, I want to know every place that I've been to has always been equal, and the only reason why I say that is because I I look at it as, like, when I went to South America, I was down there, or Central America, I was down there, and the work that they do down there, it's like being deployed in Afghanistan. It's the up tempo is so high. You're constantly working. Okay, but every actually Central America was being stationed in Central America was a very um, profound experience for me, because I saw the Air Force, I saw the Marines, I saw your elite groups and us regular Army aviation guys come together and work very, very hard and be very close. We worked hard together, and we socialized together, as one. And during my time down there, it was it was an experience. Like I said, we're our Air Force would go have a beer with them after working so many hours, and um, yeah, things like that. It was really a tight knit group of people that worked hard and played hard, and that's what we did down there. We helped a lot of the folks down there, med rep, and did a lot of other stuff that you know made sure that it didn't come to our shores, you know from drugs to human trafficking. It was just it was just beautiful what we did down there. And um and I was part of that. I was very honored to be a part of that elite group. I want to say, because we did a lot of togetherness down there, brotherhood. And in fact, after 10 years of constantly deploying um, high tempo, I went down there. It was like a recharge. Okay. It's like if I didn't go down there, I was out of the Army after 10 years. But I went down there, recharged my batteries, came back and finished my tour and did another tour or two in Afghanistan, Rocket City, and in Germany. So yeah, it was. I think that was my defining moment, whether I wanted to stay in or continue my military career.
All right. So to get one last topic in there, uh, one very important thing with the military is the work-life balance. And you've got a wife and two children that are very close to grown now, and you know it's a success story. And do you have any good insight or secrets, or something to espouse on that, to tell people this is, you obviously work hard, you obviously got a lot of missions and deployments and everything else. How do you incorporate that into your family life and make sure that is as solid as it is?
Well, the family side was a really big factor. I have three kids. All right, my oldest son, he went to Fort Campbell, and because of the program over there, um, he was one. He was the first of okay. He played football in Fort Campbell, and he was one of the first groups that went to state in Fort Campbell High. That's the kind of um, benefits that we had, with DoD. My son went to state championships. They were the first. That was the first year that they ever went to state championship. After that, they went another, I think, four. But he experienced that, and for me to experience my son to be a state champ was beautiful. I got to experience that. Um, my son, he's successful right now. My oldest, my middle son, because of the DoD and the military life, he has a degree in computer science, and he's joining the Air Force. And I keep telling him, don't join. Why are you joining? He goes, well, it's something I want to do. So he's joining the Air Force, and he's way better as a man than I was at his age, and I owe it to the programs that the military had, and then my daughter, she's following in the same educational pipeline as my son Stephen, and she's doing great. Her grades are amazing. She wants to be a doctor and whatever. And I'm gonna be there. And the military's giving me all these advantages and uh, to do that. And not only that, not only is my family living, we're living that American dream. We had we were away from our family for 20 years. It's not until I got stationed here that I was able to live close to my family, my away family. The other family members that military members that were experiencing like yours and mine that experienced the military life. They had that togetherness, and every time they get together, it was, we helped each other out. We entertained each other because of the family that we were lacking. And it helped out. It helped us, our community, and that was our military community. It helped us shape our families to where it is now. If it wasn't for my military family community, my daughter wouldn't be I don't think a great person, along with the help of my wife. My son, before my son Stephen, it was 10 years. He was a prisoner of my community, and that's before I joined the military. And we kept him in the house because how dangerous it was in our neighborhood. So when I joined the military and I lived on post or live in a Army military community, I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to worry about locking my door. I didn't have to worry about my kids biking my front yard. None of that. So it was like, it was a very it was something that I would never have words to say to the military and my military community. That shows how grateful me and my wife was for them, and the teachers, the DoD teachers, that to shape them to where they're at now. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, that's great. Yeah, I agree, and the military family is definitely something that everybody experiences and appreciates, because the people that are there for you when you're not there. Um, I probably felt that at Fort Drum more than anywhere else because we lived on post, um, and we were gone. I was gone a lot, and I'm sure you were gone a lot
oh yeah.
during that time as well. Um, but yeah, I really appreciate your time. I think this was a great snippet into a military life and a military success story. So I really appreciate your time. Do you have any other piece to say before we close it out?
No, my brother Joseph Naputi, retired Air Force. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have what I have, and I thank him. And I thank my mom, because if it wasn't for her and her determination to raise 6 kids as a single mom,
All right.
I wouldn't be who I am.
Well, thank you for your time, and for the rest of you, thanks for joining us, and until next time, I'm out.